This is Cybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map. Hot conflict for a 3v3 featuring our green Empire player in the north, Rlandi, our blue Empire player, Bragme, and our orange allies, GodofWar, as the northern team, and on the opposite side of the map, kicking it as the red Soviets. This is Chris. As the cyan Soviets, this is YuNo. And as the purple allies, this is Fury. It is a 3v3 that is not on the map Magmageddon, and boy oh boy, look at this. This is an actual 3v3 map. This is not, I just realized it says duck map in the mini-map. So that's fun. I don't know who Duck is. I would assume that Duck is the one who made the map, but who knows? One thing to note is that we do have a good number of people playing random in this match. Actually, 4 out of the 6 people are playing random. GodofWar, for example, used to be a big allies player. Lately, he's more been playing random, but he gets random allies here, so it works out quite nicely for him in this instance. Bears coming in around behind this, and the power plant gets online just in time for that multi-gunner turret to die. A couple of Peacekeepers do manage to escape, but that dojo does go down to the terror drone, and the bear just barely misses the opportunity to kill that PK. And this aggression is keeping up, but now the sickle is here, and it looks like finally this aggression will be routed. GodofWar and Rlandi, the last one standing on the southern half of the map. Chris is going to be able to shut this down with his sickles. Vindicators coming in from Fury, who I believe is also playing random, but also got allies. And I believe Fury is an allied player by regular, and so this is, you know, the fortune of playing random and then getting the faction that you're the best with anyways. We do have, looks like a Mecha Bay first, or a War Factory first coming out from GodofWar. So we do have early aircraft from Fury. Meanwhile, it's ground for GodofWar on the north side of the map. And of course, Mecha Bays coming out from our Empire players. Double Empire and an allies on the top half of the map. Double Soviet and an allies on the bottom half of the map. So there is going to be an engineer going for the capture, but he does miss the opportunity there as this sickle jump kills him. Chris perfectly executing that attack and very narrowly saving his oil derrick from the clutches of GodofWar. Almost an expansion out onto the water. I thought the action was fighting over the ore node there on the water, but no, Rlandi is just kind of getting pushed around by the forces of Fury. Making some really curious choices there. Rlandi with some questionable control of those Tengus. Bragme shows up with a lot of Tengus to harass Chris, and Chris getting a bit of an assistance from Fury as Fury's Vindicators come in here. Chris clearing out the PKs of GodofWar, saving another oil derrick. This time he saves the oil derrick of YuNo instead of his own oil derrick. Now double Empire and allies on the top side of the map, with all of these expansions spread out to the far corners of the map. That may be one opportunity for the Empire team to get a bit further ahead than the slower expanding of the southern team, being Soviets and allies. But more on that later as Vindicators trade places with Tengus. GodofWar on the ground with the IFVs just staying active with his ground units. His armory is getting a lot of use, and unfortunately for Bragme, his expansion out to the water was short-lived as YuNo drops an Able Yard and brings an Akula sub to bear against that expansion. A Tengu going down, YuNo clearing the skies above Chris's expansions and keeping his harvesters working, at least for the current moment. Whoa, this is a weird kind of a combination as we've got IFVs and dogs making their way along the southern half of the map. An unusual combination for sure, and you'd expect to see a couple of Javelin soldiers packed in with this kind of a fighting force, but no, it really is just a couple of PKs inside of these IFVs, and that was the wrong superpower being activated there, the wrong special ability being activated as all of the dogs bark at the aircraft as they drop their bombs. Couple of MiGs circling over the north side of the map. A power plant does go down. Chris and Fury joining forces to defend this expansion area of Furies. Terror drones, hammer tanks, and bullfrogs all being brought to bear against the forces of GodofWar. And GodofWar really cannot do anything against this much firepower from a combined 2v1 kind of a team. The Terror drone does go down, and it looks like that PK is going to get eliminated. A naval yard does try and get established by Bragme, but Bragme once again completely shut down by YuNo, who has expanded out to the corner in quite a swift move. Not up to this high ground, which feels like it would be a bit closer, but instead onto the low ground and then out onto the water for YuNo. The MiGs heading through the middle of the map. Toxins being called in on that ore collector, but the ore collector has already been called off the line. Bragme, his waters are being constantly patrolled. Rlandi looking to go up to tier 3 with a mainframe core emerging just now. One Apollo of Furies does get caught by the Tengus of Bragme. GodofWar moving forward. Cryo shot going to be firing off. It will neutralize this multi-gunner turret, and he will get that oil derrick sooner or later. Cryo shot fires off from the other side. The sentry gun and the multi-gunner turret have bought enough time, and finally that oil derrick does go down just barely, as Chris actually gets a little bit of cash back from it as well. So he got himself a last moment cash boost from that one oil derrick. Prospector from GodofWar heading out to the corner will be spotted by Fury, so Fury's dog is going to let him know that there is a potential expansion coming up, and that is something that he will want to attack. I actually have no idea how an engineer is supposed to get down here. I guess a bullfrog might be the only way to get in. Okay, you could paradrop it with the flying thing from the Allies with a sentry bomber. You could paradrop there, unless you can't paradrop over water. I'm not 100% on that. But yeah, this oil derrick, I'm not actually sure what the plan is for how anyone is supposed to capture that. Tank busters are here from Rlandi. Vindicators, nice bomb splitting there by Fury, cleaning up a good couple of the tank busters before the fight even begins. GodofWar coming in from the left side. Chris is going to have to back off. Fury maybe not getting the notice that he was also supposed to back off, as Chris nearly leaves him for dead there. A couple of double gun hammer tanks managing to escape for the current moment. Rlandi coming in with another big swarm of Tengus going for the harass, and it looks like GodofWar has been found out. Fury is going to shut down this expansion before it ever has a chance to get going, and GodofWar is going to try and go for as much damage as he possibly can, utilizing that multi-gunner turret. Meanwhile, in the north, MiGs are getting torn apart. Chopper VXs on the ground, and Tengus joining forces to cut down those MiGs. The multi-gunner turret does go down, taking a single Riptide with it out there on the water, but back on land, it looks like Chris is going to have to defend his own harvesters. Fury also showing up to the fight, but this is too many Tengus to stop the damage, and there goes the harvester as this one Tengu makes an escape into the sky, only to be shot down by an Apollo. GodofWar powered up to a big tier 2 Allies ground army, adding on an airfield and maybe some cryocopters. Finally, they are emerging, and I'm loving this combination. Get those wave force artillery and let the Allied ground forces take over the rest. YuNo, though, with a dreadnought out on the water, really should be focusing down that MCV instead of haphazardly firing at those strikers. He does eventually get one of the strikers, and the other one will survive for the current moment. The MCV definitely going to be under threat. Toxins getting called in. Chris or YuNo trying to delay this Allied move out, and this could actually be multiple dreadnoughts heading towards our Empire players from the Northern Sea. The Southern Sea has not quite been upgraded to that kind of firepower just yet, but this might be an aircraft carrier emerging, and this is going to get very difficult to hold off. Dreadnoughts in the water. YuNo going for naval superiority from almost the beginning of this game, and YuNo has not really been challenged out there on the seas, and that is going to cause a lot of problems for our team in the north. This could be a real breaking point as that first refinery goes down. The Chopper VX is trying to get into position. The Tengus are there. The MiGs are watching overhead. They are ready to go. Cryoblast firing off, ready to go. Only one team has the cryo weaponry, and that is the team in the north. Actually, no, both teams do have it, but only one player from each team. YuNo calling in a support power there. Toxins going to be coating the area, catching those Striker VXs as GodofWar just presses forward. Way too many hammer tanks here for GodofWar to deal with, but fortunately the Cryocopters come forward for the Shrink, allowing his Guardians to do some kind of damage. Cryocopters come back in. Chris trying to clear the skies, but there is so much Empire in the air. Finally, the Apollo shows up. Javelin soldiers are here to defend, but those Chopper VXs going down against the Apollo. Two of them before the Apollo finally goes down. This Striker trying to find the perfect angle to engage against that Dreadnought, but of course the MiGs making that extremely difficult. Dreadnought outranging the Wave Force artillery, and this Stingray will get targeted down. Actually, no, the Wave Force artillery just barely able to still reach the Dreadnought way out there on the water. A return Cryoblast fires off. Look at that Shrink Ray coming down from GodofWar, shrinking Rlandi's Wave Force just so that they're actually able to escape from that wave, from that Cryo Blast from the sky. More MiGs coming in for YuNo. This Empire Conyard is still here. It has not been shut down. Another refinery getting eliminated, and the Tengus finally catch the kill on that Dreadnought. The waters have been made safe for our team in the north, but I do get worried about an aircraft carrier in the south. Two aircraft carriers leaving port in the south as Fury has found a new way to engage with GodofWar. The allied players on the southern half of the map just dividing up their time, fighting each other. They did both spawn on the in the southern position of their individual teams, so they are kind of lined up with each other in that way. GodofWar pressing forward. The Cryo Shrink does not come in on the APOC tank, but the APOC tank is not involved in this. The Tesla Coil doing most of the damage for Chris as he comes in with a crush. The Hammer tank finding what damage it can. GodofWar's army and reinforcements getting split up by that Toxin drop. And finally, the Cryo Shot finds the damage that he's hoping for. Can the Wave Force actually finish off the Athena Cannon and the other forces here from our team in the south? Chris desperately wanting to reclaim his forces and keep them from getting frozen and broken apart. Now, it looks like the Bullfrogs are at least here. The MiGs getting chased away, and one APOC tank will eat one Guardian, and the Guardian nearly crushes the APOC. The Shrinks coming in from both sides. Natasha is now here, and the Wave Force will go down. A perfect snipe there by Natasha. A perfect recovery by Rlandi as he fights desperately for this middle ground. All 6 players just about crammed into this one choke point as GodofWar and Rlandi get ever closer to making critical damage against the forces of Fury and Chris, but Chris and Fury continuing to hold strong for our team in the south. Dreadnoughts getting ready to wage war once again in the north. No more Dreadnoughts, actually. It's only Akula subs for YuNo. Aircraft carriers on the water shut down completely. Multiple hydrofoils here being held in place by GodofWar. His only defense is his air forces. YuNo, with his impressive naval and air forces, has been dominating in other parts of the map, but now YuNo finally joins the fight here on the contested middle grounds. Rlandi may be forced into a bad engagement here, trying to dodge those satellites, dodge into the range of the Athena, and then back out again. The naval forces of Fury have been completely obliterated in the Southern Sea. Wave Force artillery, its fate is sealed as it sinks to an icy grave. And now the Dreadnought is back out. YuNo ready to go once again, wage an artillery war against Bragme, who has been just struggling to survive. Bragme relying more on the Mecha Bay, those tier 2 mecha units, than anything else. GodofWar looking to try and break through in a different way. Cryocopters and IFVs mixed together. couple of bullfrogs are here, but I don't know if that's going to be enough firepower to stop this allied ground forces. APOC tanks and hammer tanks, maybe enough. Cryogeddon is going to force the reinforcements to get caught. Natasha will get frozen. The APOC tank will get slowed down, and barely it will drive back into the freeze ray, but critically, it's just barely not enough to freeze down that APOC. Natasha survives the freeze for now. Meanwhile, Wave Force Artillery trying to make some kind of progress where the army is not. Our southern army has been called out of position, and Chris on the wrong side of the water in the middle of the map. He has found himself losing some defenses. Soviet MCV has made its way onto the northern half of the map, and it will meet a frozen grave as these cryocopters shrink it down and freeze it solid. MCVs take a really long time to freeze. Eventually, it does go down there, as YuNo has been unable to break Bragme into the north, but getting so close to defeating Bragme, and ultimately not able to do it. The one killer that Bragme has is, of course, his Tengus and his Strikers. The refinery goes down. Meanwhile, back in the middle of the map, GodofWar still trying to keep up the pressure from just about every angle. A Nanoswarm Hive coming online. Vacuum Imploder with 2.5 minutes on the clock. 4 minutes 50 for the first Psionic Decimator. Fury pushing forward. Chris here as well. Chris's forces being indispensable to the defense from the team on the southern half of the map. Final squadron coming in, trying to break down that Aegis shield. This Athena cannon so low on health. And finally it will go down. Shrink comes in from Fury. Cryocopters have to get called off the line. More aircraft carriers leaving port for Fury. He has established an expansion down there in the corner. Still a lot of cash left to be taken. Definitely a lot of contested ore mines on this map. A lot of these middle ore mines have not been held for very long, or held at all in the case of these outside ones. Those are difficult spots to take and control. YuNo taking a bit of harassment. This one bullfrog chasing away those Tengus, at least for now. Rlandi and GodofWar prepping for yet another brutal fight in the middle of the map. Aegis Shield will absorb a lot of that cryo freeze that is coming in from the skies. And critically, that is one Cryogeddon out of the way that our team on the north side does not have to worry about. Aircraft carriers have found their target. GodofWar needs to decide if he wants to commit to this attack in the middle of the map or go back and defend his home. Spectrum Tower gets broken down, but the APOC tank doesn't, or the Athena cannon doesn't fall just yet. Toxins being called in, and the V4 rockets from Chris trying to break the front line of this attack. Rlandi getting targeted down. V4's calling in the guns, and unfortunately for that IFV, it was a short-lived fight. 2 cryocopters down. The refinery still stands, but the harvester has fallen long ago. Natasha eventually goes down there. The Wave Force Artillery finding the damage. More Strikers going down on the north side. And 2 aircraft carriers have been shrunk down by GodofWar, who loses yet another cryocopter to the forces of Fury. Athena cannons nearly able to snipe those aircraft carriers out on the water, but it looks like GodofWar's dodging skills are just a little bit too powerful. APOC tank has the magnetic harpoon and takes almost that Wave Force Artillery down. I don't know what these Tengus are doing other than just standing over here and dying. Aircraft carriers once again making another bombing run against the refinery of GodofWar. Vacuum Imploder fires off, takes down a mecha bay there. Aegis Shield doesn't matter as the Nanoswarm Hive locking out these units for the current moment. Rlandi closing in on the artillery forces of Chris. He's finding the damage to break up Chris's long-range attacking units. A couple of twin blades here to defend the V4s, but it's not going to be enough. Has our team in the south finally been broken? GodofWar and Rlandi crashing through the defenses. Athena cannons targeting down power plant after power plant, trying to cut off the infrastructure so that they can't return fire. Fury with a fresh Athena cannon. The Wave Force artillery from Rlandi just doing massive damage. Going to be going right for the MCV, right for the heart of Chris's YuNo's Air Forces showing up at the last minute. The Wave Force artillery getting targeted down. The MCV has been eliminated. It's about revenge now for these twin blades. But the Apollo's getting traded for the Striker VXs. And for now, the Wave Force artillery survives. GodofWar has been crushed on the front line once more. But Fury barely has survived. Apollo's here to shred the twin blades, and unfortunately, it's not enough to take down that armor facility. A Tengu does get sniped, and there's PKs here to try and deal with Natasha. There's the shrink down on yet another Athena cannon, as Natasha is going to try and target that through the Aegis shield, which I guess doesn't actually work. I'm not sure what that was about to happen there, as another twin blade barely escapes the forces of GodofWar, and the carnage just is not over. Rlandi calling in that final squadron on top of... Oh, did someone just grab a Mirage tank? Yeah, it looks like Fury claiming a Mirage tank, and King Oni has finally made his way onto the battlefield. Another Cryogeddon firing off. The reset has happened, and another Cryocopter just getting deleted from the game. And oh, this King Oni trying desperately to turn the tide, but unable to push through. GodofWar has macroed up another army. The pressure keeps coming. The parade push is trading off who is the one actually sending reinforcements to this front line. Chris's will has been broken. Without an MCV, he's got no ability to call in additional forces, and that is a killer Cryogeddon, catching the Athena cannon, catching the Mirage tank, catching the War Factory as Rlandi strikes it down. The twin blades coming in for the revenge, and it looks like YuNo will be able to clear up a huge chunk of GodofWar's army. The MCV now under threat. Fury has almost nothing left. Chris has been broken. It's all down to Yurii. YuNo as the army gets eliminated by the psionic decimator. And so close to victory, and yet so far away. This MCV of Fury is about the only thing keeping him in this game. The Chronosphere is ready to go. Is he going to whisk away his MCV to safety? He might have to do that. Wave Force artillery gets cleaned up. Conyard is still here. No final strikes coming in from our team on the north side. Just absolute and pure chaos and pandemonium for this game. Tengu transforms and kills yet another Natasha there. And this Tengu happy to sacrifice its life for that particular moment. Another MCV could be on the way for Chris to try and get him back in this game. Of course, he's got the Crusher Crane, he's got the tech, he's got the production, but he can't really expand very easily, and he has no opportunity to utilize those support powers. Twin blades coming in. Bullfrogs pushing away those cryocopters once again. GodofWar leads the charge. That cryocopter goes down so quickly, and the barracks will be the next target of GodofWar. Chris's barracks will stand as the V4s find their damage, and that Wave Force, that Athena cannon will get targeted down once again by the twin blades of YuNo, who have been absolutely indispensable. GodofWar just barely trying to get some kind of value out of this. Refinery in the south. Bragme going to be dropping a little note in the north. Tanya getting dropped in from a Riptide and going for the kill on the power plant, trying to chain it into building after building, going for the MCV after that, but no, she gets cut down as Bragme and Rlandi join forces in Empire losses of that psionic decimator. 20 seconds on the clock for the next vacuum imploder, and this could decide the game if the army just disappears. These Twin Blades, who have been so incredibly powerful, such a useful force. The GG gets called with only 2 seconds on the clock, and that will do it. Our team in the South holds together and fights through to win the day. GodofWar, GodofWar, Rlandi, and Bragme putting on an impressive game with an insane amount of action. But that will do it for this game, for this match. Thank you all very much for watching, and this is Cyber signing out.